Hey everyone, it's Kundan Yashputra and welcome back to NextGen Now. Today we're diving into a story that's gripping the world, a moment where history seems to hang in the balance. It's 3:30 a.m. in Tehran, June 13, 2025. The city's asleep, but suddenly the night shatters. Explosions rip through the darkness. Flames climb into the sky, and Iran's Natanz nuclear facility, a heavily guarded site for uranium enrichment, is engulfed in smoke. Israel has just launched Operation Rising Lion, a massive airstrike targeting Iran's nuclear and military infrastructure. Why did Israel make this bold move? What's at stake for both sides? And could this be the spark that changes the Middle East forever? Let's break it down, step by step, with a clear lens, exploring the motivations, the costs, and the questions that keep us all guessing. Let's start with the strike itself. In the pre-dawn hours, 200 Israeli fighter jets take to the skies, their mission clear: hit Iran's nuclear facilities and military strongholds with precision. Natanz, built underground to withstand attacks, is a primary target. So is Fordo, another key site tucked inside a mountain. These facilities are central to Iran's uranium enrichment program, which Israel fears could lead to a nuclear weapon. The Israeli Defense Forces, or IDF, also strike radar systems, missile launchers, and military command centers across western Iran. This isn't a scattershot attack, it's surgical, designed to disrupt Iran's nuclear ambitions and its ability to retaliate. The operation also targets key figures: General Hossein Salami, head of Iran's Revolutionary Guards, Mohammad Bagheri, the armed forces chief, and at least 6 nuclear scientists, including Fereydun Abbasi, a former leader of Iran's nuclear program. This is a high-stakes gamble, and the world's watching closely. Now, picture Tehran in those early hours. Air raid sirens blare, jolting residents awake. Buildings tremble, windows shatter, and fires light up the night. The Revolutionary Guard headquarters is hit, and smoke rises from Natanz, about 140 miles south of the capital. Reports suggest at least 50 people are wounded, possibly including civilians, though exact numbers are hard to confirm. The chaos is palpable. Families huddle, unsure if more strikes are coming. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, calls the attack a crime and promises severe consequences. By morning, Iran responds, launching 100 drones toward Israel. The IDF says they're intercepting them outside Israeli territory, but the message is clear: this conflict is escalating fast. Let's step back to understand the roots of this. The tension between Israel and Iran isn't new. It's a decades-long standoff, like two chess players locked in a high-stakes match. Israel views Iran as its greatest threat, not just because of its military reach, but because of its nuclear program. Iran, since its 1979 Islamic Revolution, has often spoken of Israel's destruction, fueling fears in Jerusalem. In the early 2000s, Iran's nuclear ambitions came into sharp focus. Natanz, revealed in 2002 after being built in secret, began enriching uranium, which can power reactors or, if enriched further, fuel bombs. In 2010, a cyber attack called Stuxnet, widely attributed to Israel and the US, damaged Iran's centrifuges, slowing their progress. But Iran kept pushing forward. By 2025, global nuclear watchdogs report Iran has enough uranium enriched to 60%, close to weapons grade, for potentially 9 nuclear bombs, with a third of that stockpile amassed in just 3 months. For Israel, that's a red line. Why did Israel act now? From their perspective, the clock was ticking. The IDF warned that Iran was nearing a point of no return, with intelligence suggesting a nuclear weapon could be days away. Israel's leaders, especially Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, have long argued that a nuclear-armed Iran would threaten their nation's survival. Diplomacy wasn't delivering. Talks between the US and Iran, set for June 15th in Oman, seemed to Israel like a stalling tactic by Tehran. Netanyahu, who's been sounding the alarm on Iran for decades, chose action over waiting. The day before the strike, he placed a note in Jerusalem's western wall quoting a biblical verse: "The people shall rise up as a lion." That's the namesake of Operation Rising Lion, a symbol of Israel's determination to defend itself. Let's explore Israel's reasoning deeper. They argue this wasn't aggression, but self-defense. Iran's leaders have repeatedly called for Israel's demise, and their support for groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, who've attacked Israel, adds fuel to the fire. Israel points to Iran's nuclear progress, thousands of kilograms of enriched uranium, fortified sites like Natanz and Fordo, as evidence of a hidden weapons program. They say the world's tried diplomacy for years, but Iran's kept advancing, using talks as a cover. The strike, Israel claims, was a last resort to protect their people from an existential threat. Netanyahu called it a very successful opening move, aimed at rolling back Iran's nuclear capabilities. But let's look at Iran's side too. They insist their nuclear program is peaceful, meant for energy, not weapons. They've faced years of sanctions, cyber attacks, and assassinations, many blamed on Israel, and see these as proof of a campaign to weaken them. The loss of Salami, Bagheri, and scientists like Abbasi is a massive blow. But Iran's leaders frame the attack as an act of aggression, justifying their need for stronger defenses, including nuclear technology. Their drone response and vows of retaliation show a regime determined to stand tall, not back down. It's a perspective rooted in their own sense of survival, shaped by decades of hostility. The human cost is where this gets heavy. In Tehran, families woke to terror, their homes shaken by blasts. Residential buildings were damaged, walls collapsed, fire spread. Reports of civilian injuries, possibly including children, paint a grim picture, though details are murky. In Israel, air raid sirens sent residents scrambling as Iran's drones approached, though no major damage was reported. Both sides' civilians are caught in the crossfire, living under the shadow of decisions made far above them. Imagine being a parent in either country, holding your kids tight, wondering what's next. That's the real toll of this conflict. The strike's targets were strategic. Salami was a towering figure, leading Iran's Revolutionary Guards through regional conflicts. Bagheri oversaw the military's operations, and Rashid commanded a key headquarters. The scientists, Tehranchi, Minusher, Feki, and others, were critical to Iran's nuclear work. Their deaths could set Iran back years, but their facilities are built to endure. Natanz is underground, Fordo's in a mountain, and early reports suggest no radiation leaks at Natanz, meaning the core infrastructure might still function. Iran's oil refineries and depots also dodged damage. So, while Israel hit hard, did they stop Iran's nuclear dreams or just delay them? The world's reaction was like a global gasp. Oil prices surged over 12%, hitting $76.61 for West Texas Intermediate and $77.77 for Brent crude, threatening economies worldwide. Airlines like Emirates and Qatar Airways canceled flights to Iran, Iraq, and Jordan, and Iran closed its airspace. The U.S., Israel's key ally, didn't join the strike. Secretary of State Marco Rubio called it a unilateral action and urged Iran not to target American interests. President Trump, who'd been pushing for a nuclear deal, expressed frustration but hinted at more to come. Allies like the UK and France called for calm, while Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia criticized Israel. The UN's nuclear watchdog warned that attacking nuclear sites risks catastrophic consequences. Iran's response went beyond drones. Their foreign ministry labeled the strikes a declaration of war and promised a strong counter. President Pezeshkian said Israel would regret it, and the government argued the attack proved they need nuclear capabilities to deter future strikes. Hamas, supported by Iran, said Tehran was paying for backing Palestinian causes. The region braced for more. Jordan and Iraq shut their airspace, and Israel declared a state of emergency, though they lifted shelter orders by midday, suggesting confidence in their defenses. Let's zoom out to the broader context. This conflict sits on a global stage. Iran's nuclear program has been a flashpoint since the 2015 nuclear deal fell apart in 2018 after the US withdrew. Iran ramped up enrichment, insisting it's for civilian use, but global watchdogs recently censored them for non-compliance, the first time in 20 years. Israel's strike could derail US-Iran talks, already shaky, and challenge Trump's goal of brokering peace. The human impact is stark. Beyond military losses, civilians in Tehran and Israel face fear and uncertainty, their lives disrupted by this escalating feud. What's driving the leaders? Netanyahu's focus on Iran is almost personal, rooted in a belief that a nuclear Iran threatens Israel's existence. He's compared it to history's darkest moments, framing this strike as a fight for survival. Defying Trump's diplomatic push shows his trust in action over words. For Iran, Khamenei's tough talk is about rallying his people and projecting strength after a devastating blow. Losing key figures hurts, but Iran's history of enduring hardship suggests they'll push back. It's like two warriors, each convinced they're fighting for their lives. The Middle East is a tinderbox. Iran's allies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, have clashed with Israel for years. The Gaza war, sparked by Hamas's October 2023 attack, continues, and Iran's support for these groups makes it a target. Israel's 2024 strikes on Iran were smaller, but Operation Rising Lion marks a shift to direct confrontation. A misstep could pull in global powers, turning a regional conflict into something far bigger. What's at stake for the world? The oil spike is already hitting markets, and further escalation could drive up costs for gas, food, and more. A nuclear-armed Iran could trigger an arms race, with neighbors like Saudi Arabia racing to catch up. And the civilians, families in Tehran dodging debris, families in Israel hearing sirens, they're the ones living this conflict's reality while leaders make moves on a global board. Let's get personal. Think of someone like Hossein Salami, a soldier who rose to lead Iran's elite, believing he was protecting his nation, or Feridun Abbasi, a scientist pouring years into a program he thought was for progress. Then, in a flash, they're gone. Or imagine a Tehran family, their home damaged, praying for safety, or an Israeli family rushing to a shelter. These are human stories, not just headlines, and they remind us war's cost goes beyond strategy. What's next? Israel calls the strike a success, but Iran's vowing revenge. Natanz may still be operational, and Iran's promising a strong response. The US hopes for talks, but will Iran engage after this? The region's on edge, and this could go either way, toward de-escalation or deeper conflict. It's a moment where the future feels uncertain. Let's reflect. Operation Rising Lion is a bold move driven by Israel's fear of a nuclear Iran. Iran's response is fueled by their own need to survive and stand strong. Both sides see themselves as defenders, not aggressors, but the cost is mounting. What does this say about fear, power, and the choices that shape our world? Are we heading towards stability or a bigger storm? I'm left wondering, and I bet you are too. That's the story of Operation Rising Lion, folks. If this hooked you like it did me, hit that like button, subscribe to NextGen Now, and ring the bell for more. Drop a comment, where do you see this conflict going? I'm Kundan Yashputra, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay curious.